Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones. We're recording. I think it's Wednesday. Days of the week are a little fuzzy. But last night the uh, Hawks got a last second win. Incredible buzzer beater from Trae Young. Um, that's almost too good to talk about. If you just say good job. But there are some other things that maybe more interesting to discuss. One thing I wanted to ask you kind of off the top was all season long, it's kind of been a problem for the Hawks when Jalen Johnson's out. Last night we got to see Zachary Risache basically at power forward, matched up a lot of the game against Lauri Markkanen. What did you think about Zach's minutes as a power forward?
It was the only time the Hawks were getting stops. It felt like without Ricochet and yet really, truthfully, without Ricochet's like length and athleticism, the Hawks really had a hard time not only containing ball handlers, but like the help defense was just poor the entire game from non like Dyson Ricochet type players, where you just really felt the lack of athleticism from the Hawks. Um, And like without Jalen, the Hawks are pretty, they get really small really quick once they go to their bench. It's like DeAndre Hunter's the next biggest guy, and DeAndre, for all his strengths, he's not a very imposing defender, especially in the interior. So it was just like it was a frustrating game because like you look at this Jazz team and they were just spamming like Laurie Markin and off ball actions, and the Hawks. It's like they've never practiced defending somebody who can shoot off the off movement off ball. And so I was like genuinely confused at the miscommunications on switches that should have been automatic, the inability to force Laurie Markkinen to use his left hand at all the entire like until like the very end of the game. This is basic stuff, and like to see guys who should be better at executing defensive like these type of defensive principles against a limited team like the Jazz outside of Colin Sexton, Laurie Markin, like they have no like that at least that version of the Jazz had really no viable path to beat you offensively except for those two guys, and the Hawks just kept like allowing Laurie Markin to get easy catch and shoot open three pointers. It was just like what is beyond the like physical issues the Hawks were having, which were some, I thought it was more like lack of execution on defense was really what was frustrating. It's been a bad trend on this road trip where it just doesn't feel like the Hawks are executing as well as they had, during their previous 3 game win streak, like starting even with the Lakers game where they were just getting back cut to death. I'm pretty sure you guys talked about that. It's just like, where's the it feels like there's been a real lapse of focus on this road trip. And, luckily Trae bailed them out because they had no business. Like that game really had no business being close. Like I, especially considering like the Jazz, like just, I mean, they were hurt too. Like that was the top thing. So, I mean, luckily Trae had one of the best game winners you're ever going to see, on a basketball floor, at all. But overall, I'm not optimistic about what the Hawks are looking like right now as of today.
What did you think, Glenn?
Well, so Laurie made 8 threes, right? Made two in the first quarter, made two in the second quarter. The third quarter, he made 2 for 3. And what I would ask you is, can the defense typically affect volume more or makes? In the fourth quarter, he was 1 for 4. The adjustment that I saw this is not me trying to claim the Hawks did a good job against Larry Mark. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But they shifted DeAndre Hunter onto him, and I to be Laurie got tired. Laurie was running off of screens the whole game. This guy, his size, running off of screens the whole game, probably get tired. So there's probably some context there. But I mean, I thought DeAndre, worked pretty hard on him, in the fourth quarter, and that made an impact. So to me the problem shifted. First half, Laurie just knocking down threes off of screens, no shot challenges, not really contesting those shots. In the fourth quarter, the Jazz figured out how to attack the paint, get downhill, draw Clint in as the extra defender, and that's when Walker Kessler was getting putbacks and things like that. And so to me, the problem shifted in that sense. I think Will Hardy's a pretty pretty freaking good coach, and to kind of get them kind of adapting to what Quinn was trying to show at them. But to me, the problem moved, and for me, the issue was there's several issues. One is in the first half, yes, Laurie was getting uncontested looks. In the second half, once the Hawks were committed to chasing him off screens, they were getting downhill and forcing Clint into the action, right? Third problem for me was they didn't adjust to the officiating at all, right? The Jazz were like, we get to be physical as heck, and the Hawks just didn't calibrate to the officiating. So I agree with Tyler that this is Hawks got lucky that Trey made that shot. It goes into overtime. It's a coin toss, for me, for sure. But to me, the problem kept moving. It's sort of like we squeeze a balloon and it kind of goes over here and it goes over here. And the Hawks just felt like they were a little late, kind of catching up to problem one, problem two, problem three. So that's the viewing experience I felt like I had.
But like, I feel like the issue stemmed from the lack of problem solvers defensively. It became a personnel. I mean, it just felt like uh, the Jazz were catching the Hawks in bad like personnel rotations, where it felt like a lot of the runs were happening where Reese Shea and Dyson are off the floor. It's Trae, Gary Matthews, Bogdanovich, and DeAndre Hunter. It's like the lack, but there's two issues with that lineup. One is their clear lack of size and athleticism, but also the lapses in execution that they were having defensively. I thought even it's not a great defensive lineup, but I thought, and to me, it felt like I wish Shea just played more. I don't understand this minutes restriction that he's on, but whatever. But if he's going to be on this minutes restriction, I thought Quinn should have did a better job of staggering Dyson and Shea with the understanding that, you know, from an athletic perspective, those are really your only two good perimeter defenders, you know, on who play regularly, you know, especially with Keaton Wallace not like I think they might have had a better time if Keaton Wallace was out there just to have another guy to really because like they were having problems with Colin Sexton too, keeping him out of
He's
the
not
lane.
there, is he?
No, Keaton Wallace was in G League.
No,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
not there. Okay, I just want to
Yeah,
make
no,
that
I'm saying
clear in case somebody
no,
thought that. Okay.
no, I was saying if he was there, I
Yeah,
thought they would have had an option to go,
yeah,
okay, Dyson, Reese share out the game. I can
that's
get
right.
Keaton Wallace out there instead of, he went offense. But like defensively was one thing. Offensively, that unit I didn't think played well. You know, it just felt like felt like nobody wanted to drive to the rim. That entire lineup. Uh, you know, Trey was Trey was trying to set guys up because he was taking the the help, and I thought Gary was like the best driver of the three of Bogey and DeAndre. Like DeAndre just had a bad driving game. He's kind of regressed a bit there, and I think part of that is the defenses are keying in on some of his flaws more often on that side of the floor. But like Bogey's like, he's trying to punish these closeouts, and they're just going to like these possessions are just going to die when he drives to the rim. And so he needs to be better. Like he just like, and he did get better as the game went on. But I thought like my biggest issue with that lineup was like offensively you weren't getting what you wanted. They really honestly missed Dyson and Reese's just ability to get to the rim. Like whether it be off the dribble or off, being able to like dive to the rim and make a play happen. Like uh, it just felt like without one of those guys on the floor, the Hawks on both ends just weren't very dynamic on really either end of.
What was it about that game that made Veet more effective? Because it looked, he's had a weird trip like out of the rotation against the Lakers and the Clippers. He just looked like ultimately frustrated. Like he was playing bad and he knew he was playing bad, and you could see it in his reactions to plays that, I mean, he knew that it was just not going well. And then in this game, what sort of worked for him in this game, beyond maybe just for the first time in a while he was driving the score.
Going up
Not only
against
that, but
bad defenders.
he was not hesitating on the three, right?
That too.
When he hesitates, he misses. I mean, I think that's largely true of anyone who's not a high-end shooter in the league. It's like if there's a hesitation, oh, this is like 85% likely to be a miss, right? You see it with Dyson, you see it with V, whatever that might be, and stuff. And so I don't know, it just felt like offensively he was like, I'm just going to be more aggressive, right? And that was helpful too. Offensively, I mean, I'd have to go back and kind of rewatch the second half and say like which on-ball defenders were struggling to contain the ball. Um, but I mean, on that last play where Colin Sexton made that, like Veet was all over him on that play. Um, but but the
Can't give
Hawks,
him the step back though. That's
yeah,
that
yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, Dyson got the tip, and it was this. I mean,
I
I,
understand. It's one of those
yeah,
things where it's like just foul him. You're up three.
yeah.
Uh, it's clocks. It's below 5 seconds. Like if it's a scramble situation, just go for the ball. Like dive for the ball, cause a foul. Two shots and you get the ball back. Like it's just one of those things where you, better situational awareness needed to be had on that play. Where granted, I thought beats. I mean, if it was a normal, like if he wasn't supposed to foul and he's supposed to play straight up, it's fine defense. Though he's got to understand he's got to take away any threat, of a 3-point shot. He's got to overplay. You just have to overplay the step back. That's just how you have to defend these shots now. But like he was fine, but better basketball, better awareness of the floor would have told him, you know, could have helped him out. His teammates could have helped him out by just, tell him, hey, go ahead and foul. So, but like, overall, it was fine defense. But I didn't think I haven't been impressed with Beats defense overall this season at all. Like I feel like he's kind of regressed a bit on that side of the floor. I wonder if you what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, last year he got ramped up in a bigger defensive role when the other guys were out, and now it's I mean, I feel like some people say I'm an easy grader or I'm too tolerant, whatever. But I feel like just giving him more sustained time with on-ball defensive responsibilities, just to see how he responds. He hasn't been at the level he was last year during that really good run he had. Felt like it was like 10 games or whatever that stretch was where he was really good last year. He's definitely not at that level yet. Will he get there? We'll see. But I think he can do more and he can do better than he did in this game. And for me, I just want to kind of just see him get sustained opportunities on there and see if he calibrates his spacing a little better, and just gets a little more comfortable kind of in that role. But I think it's they need better from him. I would agree with that statement.
What do you think of the backup point guard situation? Is it, we've talked about some of the candidates, but like is already in this episode, but it seemed like Dyson Daniels got a lot of minutes in that kind of role. Is that maybe the best setup? Is to try to stagger Dyson so that he can be on in the non-trade minutes?
Well, they're playing a young team that was missing a number of veterans. Dyson had 7 assists, and so I felt like this is I feel like the answer to that question is different game to game to game, matchup to matchup to matchup. How advanced is the defense? How much of a veteran squatters that are they facing? And I feel like it's going to be a game to game thing, whether that's good enough or not. In this game, it was, barely. You know, I mean, I keep looking at Utah put up 121 points in regulation. They've won 9 games this year, right? You know, that that's for sure bad. On the offense end of the court, I think it was fine. Kessler they had Kessler up to the level of this Green. I don't know that he has really kind of the ability skills to kind of navigate all that sort of stuff. If he had better defenders around him, he'd probably look better doing that. But at the end of the game, they were sinking like crazy. They were sinking like crazy in the paint. That's when Clint really couldn't do anything, down around the paint. And so I felt like the Jazz, like, they calibrated their defense down to what they were problem solving faster. I felt like the Hawks were on defense in this game, which is interesting thing to think about. But I mean, but in this game, Dyson was enough. Phoenix, are they going to throw a Kogi on him? Are they going to throw Royce? Like, I feel like the calculation on is it enough is different game to game to game depending on matchup, and that's just how it's going to be until they do or don't make a move, roster move.
Okay, but that wasn't the question I asked you. I asked you, is it the best well, maybe I didn't finish the sentence, but
Yeah,
is he the best option for what they have on their roster right now?
turns the ball over less than the other guys right now, right? And he's just steadier, but there's not dynamic playmaking ability. But I mean, I trust him to not do stupid stuff to a degree more than the guys who are less experienced in that role, right? And I think that matters. And I think the international play shows up in his steadiness. I think, so for right now, I think he's the best option. And, by a good bit. I think if you ask Quinn, like, do you want to give V reps and try to get him progressing into that role? I think Hawks fans would be like, we you need to win games. We want to get out of we want to avoid the play in. So it's like, is the organization thinking long term about development being a priority, or right now is winning a priority? Because if winning's a priority right now, Bison is a lot more steady than anybody else in that role, in my view.
I mean, I don't know who else. The only other option is Jalen, and I feel like, well, one, he's hurt right now, but two, like, I think Quinn didn't like how Jalen was playing in that role offensively,
Right.
and so people are crying all the time, like, why doesn't Quinn stagger Trae and Jalen? I'm like, Jalen is not good enough with the ball in his hands to run an offense, and like that they want to maintain his confidence level. So like, we're not
Yep.
gonna, especially when you have legitimate options. Like I think it's fine in the sense that if Bogey, truthfully, this is a Bogdanovich issue to me more than anything else. If Bogey was the player that the Hawks that he was last year,
Yep.
I'm not sure this is an issue because he's somebody you could run an offense through uh, without question, with Trae off the floor, and it'd be good. But because he's not been dynamic, he though I will say this, he was playing pretty poorly until he got another stint in the second half, and I thought that was like the best he's looked. Uh, Interestingly enough, but like they need the guy from last year. They need the guy from the Olympic run, you know. And until they get him, it's going to be it's just going to be a struggle, whoever the Hawks put in that role. But like to me, if Bogey was the Bogey that I think the Hawks organization thought they were going to get this year, I think you're fine with Dyson or V, basically just bringing the ball up the floor and then setting Bogey up to run his actions to get the guys and it's the offense and like to trust him to get quality looks each and every time down the floor on offense. But like right now, I don't know how you can do that. You watch Bogey and it's like he looks slow and he's not confident in his legs right now. So uh, until that changes, I think and teams have gotten smarter about guarding DeAndre Hunter. They're not putting bad defenders uh, every team's putting their best perimeter defender on DeAndre Hunter now. Like they're not messing around with him, or they're putting real size against him, and they're like, okay, like you're gonna have to prove you can beat this man off the dribble consistently. And so, like, I think teams have gotten a little bit smarter to how they were defending DeAndre earlier in the season. So, but there's opportunities for other guys now to score and to contribute on that side of the floor. So, hopefully, Bowie can get his act. Like, truthfully, hope Bowie get his act together. At least in the short term, without making any move to acquire a backup point guard. Like that's the best option. Not necessarily to be the point guard, but like to be the guy you're running your offense.
This takes pressure off everybody else, right? When he's the bogey, he's been the last 2 or 3 games. That's not enough to really. I mean, defense is still reacting to him, but if he's not making when he's making shots, it opens every. It makes it. Bison is a way better point guard when he's on the floor with Bogey's making shots. And I know I see all the time like, oh, Bogey's cooked. It's like I mean, every player at his age, you're like, is this the trajectory? I mean, you're watching and you're like trying to figure that out. But he's also coming back from injury, so I'm just, again, this is me being accommodating in the way that I am sometimes. It's like give him 5 more games. Let's see if he gets the rhythm, and that sort of thing. And that's what I'm looking for. But for me, I agree with you. I think DeAndre Hunter is week by week showing up higher and higher and higher in opposing scouting reports, and they're like, if be physical with him, cut off his path to the basket, he's not the 3 point line, and I think that's what he's dealing with right now. And
Or
he's got to figure that out. For him to
yeah,
continue playing at the pace, playing at the level he's been playing at, he's got to okay, I'm getting different kind of attention. I'm getting a different treatment from opposing defenses now. And that again, this comes back to problem solving. Like, can he problem solve that? And it doesn't need to be just him by himself. He's got to know they're going to want to take a defender at me. They're going to make me dribble. They're going to make me and these are things they're going to make me do, and I've got to be able to do that. And we'll. This is something that's really just shown up in the last 5 games or so, 3, 4, 5 games. But this is adjustment to different treatment that he's seeing now and seeing how he deals with that.
I feel like all the paths have converged on Patty Mills. You mentioned international basketball and the defensive breakdowns and problem solving. Because, one of the problems that DeAndre didn't solve was he had no idea. I mean, I think he knew he had a mismatch when he was being guarded by Patty Mills, but he didn't have a solution as to how to score on him. Um, so I guess first, like, what do you want to see him do there? It seemed like he just tried to kind of brute force it through Patty, and that didn't work.
well, when he had it going, it was off the ball, right? It was off the catch on a smaller defender getting downhill, just getting the engine. Like DeAndre isn't a good athlete off of like no momentum, if that makes sense. If he's
Yeah.
standing still or if he's in a post up situation, he does not have the burst to rise up even over smaller defenders consistent. He can do it, but it's not something that's going to be very consistent. And it's also easier to trap him and double him. If he's off the catch where he gets a head of steam of it, head of steam going, all of a sudden he can dunk on guys like Wemby. And so like what needed to happen was just more off ball action, just more copy what the Jazz were doing with Laurie Markkinen. Like to me, that's what they need from DeAndre Hunter. You know, off the catch. If you got a slither of space, take the open jump shot. If not, pass it out, reset the offense, set another screen. But the issue is these lineups without Trae Young don't have that focal point to take that pressure off of DeAndre. And so like I think there's a real struggle of how do I get the best out of DeAndre when Trae's off the floor if there's nobody to initiate the action that'll get him that crease, that lane. Uh, and so like I think that's where the Hawks are. One, they're missing Jalen a lot, just flat out off of that, and they're missing another ball handler. Like that's just the reality of the situation. They need another creator. If Bogey, I mean, if Bogey would be the guy who was who was like going toe to toe with LeBron James and KD in the Olympics just like a couple months ago, we're not having this conversation. Like that would be the option. That would be we're running actions for Bogey and DeAndre is taking advantage of the attention Bogey is driving. But because he's not there, it's DeAndre on, you know, higher on the pecking order. And DeAndre's not as good a playmaker, with the ball in his hands. He's not a good dribbler as Bogey is when he's looking to score. So that's where it's like, okay, you got a mismatch on a smaller guy. All right, let's move Patty Mills around the floor. A crack's going to form, and then we attack that mismatch. That's how you attack mismatches in today's game. Not, I mean, you also do it traditionally with post ups and stuff like that. But like, DeAndre's post ups are always going to be the fadeaway variety, the getting to the mid range. Like he hasn't consistently shown ability to put his shoulder into guys and get all the way to the front of the rim. And like he just doesn't have the uh the athleticism to really take advantage in those situations consistently. Not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying like on a consistent basis, it's harder for him just because it takes him a while to get to load up, if that makes sense.
Well, now that we've sufficiently buried the lead, what do you want to say about Trae Young at this point?
20
I'm gonna
assists, 2 turnovers.
I'm gonna be
Yeah,
so annoyed if he doesn't make the All Star team. Like,
yeah, same.
I don't care. I don't care about these other guys. I respect to them; they're having great seasons. I understand that. Trae Young has done this basically every year in his career. Like, it's just like unheard of stuff. No other basketball player plays like Trae Young. There's not another playmaker on Trae Young's level in today's game. Like, period. The second closest is Jokic. That's it. That's the list. It's those two guys, and quite frankly, Trae does more with the ball in his hand than Jokic does. Like he just does. Like he creates better looks for his teammates than anybody else in the game. He is one of the five greatest passers to ever play the game of basketball. At some point, the media has to accept that he's not the perfect scorer. He's just like a good scorer. He's not a great, but he is an unheard of passer. And like he gets penalized. Like he's getting penalized for stuff that's out of his control. He cannot control how the Hawks offense is ran when he's off the floor. He can't do anything about it. He cannot do like, and people are like, he's always gotten hit, even when people are saying, "Oh, this is the best Trae's ever played." I'm like, it's not true. He's played better. He's had better stretches in his career. He's played better in his career. He's starting to pick it up now recently, on the offensive side of the floor. But like, I just feel like at some point people have to start respecting what an all-time great is actually doing in the moment instead of being like, wow, Trae really the only one to ever have to average these totals throughout a season for like 5 straight years. Like you, you just don't get this. You don't get this level of playmaking and then shooting offensive creation. Like you just don't get this. I understand like other guys are having great careers and like the East is kind of come back up where everybody's kind of 500 now again. But like I mean, this Hawks team is not even a 30-win basketball team without Trae. Like they they're barely surviving Jalen. Like they're not really surviving without Jalen Johnson. But that's because of the lack of positional depth. Trae is a combination of they have no backup point guard, but that's been an issue for this Hawks team since Lou Williams stopped being good. Like and Dejounte Murray was really good at backup point guard, but like when it's not those two guys, like the Hawks just never have found a solution to this problem when Trae is off the floor. Uh, Other than really those Dejounte Murray lineups work because Bogey was playing out of playing up to the level. So like they, I'm frustrated for him that there's always a caveat with Trae, and people just can't like acknowledge the greatness that he's doing. Like another 2020, it's his third of the season. Only John Stockton's done that in like 1990 or something. Like it, I understand people think the game is diluted now. If it were this easy to rack up assists like Trae Young does, or get a potential assist, more players would do it. Like true, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
an easier way to score. Like it, I mean, it's open
yeah,
shots, open dunks. Like what are we talking about?
yeah. I mean, I always want to respect what other players do, but Tyler Hero makes the All-Star team and Trey doesn't. Maxi, who I enjoy, makes the All-Star. Taylor Brenson's going to make the All-Star team. Zero question about that. Right? That's going to happen. Right? But these other guys, like that's when I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this kind of whole process. Yeah, and that's not. I mean, yeah, you know.
Trey Young doesn't
So
get to play with the greatest 7-foot shooter in NBA history, and like four other guys who all shoot 40% from 3-point range. Like Trey plays with bad spacing, and it's still an elite offense. Like I need people to understand how like the needle that Trey is threading right now on this team that does like he makes Dyson Daniels valuable on the offensive side of the floor right now. Like it, and I love Dyson. I think he's going to be. I think he's got Dyson has another tier to go as a basketball player. He leaves a lot on the table, particularly even more so than his shooting. Is his driving that frustrates me, where it's just not physical. Like it's just not physical enough with him, and he has the athleticism and the physicality and the handle to be able to finish at the rim better than what he's done. But like he's carrying Dyson, he's carrying a rookie Zachary Reese who doesn't have the strength to consistently finish plays. Uh, and but he's making it work. He's making it work. And this is a good team. Um, and I feel like voters, media, especially media voters, should be able to acknowledge, be like, yo, like his points per game are down. That that's because he does what like Trey does. What he really does, whatever it takes for this team to win games. Like, and so like I would be really frustrated. Like I think Jalen has a shot to make it, but I'll be really, really disappointed if the voters once again just leave Trey off their ballots. That just feels nonsensical to me. But
yeah,
who knows?
yeah, the situation. I want to hear Kevin talk about this too, but their starting unit is built for defense. The second unit is built for offense. They need to find a way to distribute offense and defense across both units if as they can, right? When Trey is on the floor, they have an offensive rating that's equivalent to the eighth best off that Oklahoma City's off. Trey has them when he's on the floor. They have the equivalent offense as Oklahoma City's eighth in offensive rating before tonight. And that starting unit he plays with is built for defense. That says it
Yeah,
all
it
to me.
really is. I mean, it's like nuance and subtlety, and you have to like see it in action to have any comprehension to really kind of you like Glenn is citing the best number, which is offensive efficiency, but it's like he just has a command of offense like I don't think he's had in previous seasons. Like he shot better, but like he's out there like conducting a symphony. Like he doesn't have the horses on offense, and it still works. I'm saying what Tyler just said and what you just said, Glenn. I'm not saying it any differently, but it's like It's unbelievable.
It really is.
Like
Like,
that's not a good group of four offensive players out there with him. Like everything that you said about Dyson Daniels is on the money. Like there's more for him to do driving because he doesn't generate the free throw attempts that he should, given the looks that he gets because Trae is setting him up, and the number of 4-on-3s that he gets because Trae's drawing enough attention that they have to play up high on him. So it's interesting. To me, I think it was a big turning point in the season just to, like I guess it was probably like 4 weeks ago when it was just he got enough drop coverage just to get in a little bit more of a rhythm, just so that he just didn't get enough touch because they were so hell bent on getting the ball out of his hand in October and November that he had no rhythm. He couldn't shoot the ball. He barely touched the ball. He had to dribble it up, get in the initial action, and the defense just said, "No, we're not letting you do anything. Play 4-on-3 behind us." And he had to keep giving it up. It ended up with Dyson. It ended up with Inyaka. It ended up with Jalen. Like he finally got to have the ball a little bit more starting in December when there were more drop coverage. And I think that's kind of a turning point. But like, man, it is something to watch. I have a hard time, saying that any version of Trae before this has been better. Like he can do individual aspects better, but I think when you factor like the passing and the defense, like I think it's a really, something of a masterclass. And obviously I would echo what
but
you've said about the All-Star game.
and like the thing is, like this Hawks, like, oh
Go ahead.
no,
You can
I'm
be
just
quick.
saying, like this Hawks team could be on that level if they made moves to get more veteran, guys who could play with Trae Young more consistent, better offensive scheme. But like that's not what
He
the Hawks want to do right
and he
The
still
last thing for me,
cares.
last thing for me, Trey in the timeout where he was really vocal, love it. Trey getting mobbed by his teammates at the end of the game, my favorite part of that game. So as a viewer, just loved it. So hope Fox fans enjoyed it too.
All right. Good night, Bob.
Bye, Bob.
now. Bob.